Good morning, everyone. This is Asna Siddiqui. It is my pleasure to have all of you present for this exciting workshop on data science and AI. I lead India AI, the National AI Portal of India, a joint initiative of Ministry of Electronics and IT, NEGD, and NASSCOM. If you want to be clued into what's happening in the Indian AI ecosystem from the government, academia, and the industry, do check it out at indiaai.gov.in. I'm your host for this session, which will give you a peek into what it takes to become an AI professional and what lies ahead on the AI job landscape. Can you please move to the next slide? So these are the points that we will cover through the workshop. We will talk about data science and AI and how NASSCOM is tightly integrated with the field and how what are the initiatives that are at play at NASSCOM to further the AI ecosystem in India. We'll introduce AI Parivartaks, which is this group that is hosting the workshop today, and also talk about the data science and AI landscape, like I said, and what are the opportunities that lie for India. And then it'll be followed by a panel discussion of about 45 minutes, after which we will share with you information on how to contribute to AI for India and how to become part of this group and contribute further. And also we'll take up audience questions at the end of this panel discussion. I'll give it over to Madhav.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. As you know that we have been talking about artificial intelligence and data science for long, and AI is termed as the new electricity. Now, for a country, it cannot get bigger when the leader of the country says that it's a tribute to human intellectual power to think and enable humans to make tools and technologies. Just cannot get any bigger. So that's the vision our Honorable Prime Minister has put across. So at NASSCOM, what we do is we enable the vision for the country to help people develop with inclusiveness through data and AI. In this regard, what NASSCOM has done, it's partnered with state governments like Government of Karnataka for KTech Center for Excellence for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence, and with Government of Telangana for Telangana AI Mission. Through these two Center of Excellences, we enable the entire AI ecosystem in helping in industries and the government adopt to the AI products solutions and to augment the very efforts that are being put in this domain. With India AI, as Asna said, what we do is we keep everybody informed and we keep that up to date on what's happening in this domain. So it just can't get any bigger than this. So this is what you call the flavor of the season. So I'll pass on to Gopalan, who will speak about what AI Parivartaks do.
Thank you, Madhav, and welcome everybody to this webinar on data science and AI careers. So I lead the AI Parivartaks, and the panelists today are part of AI Parivartaks. Parivartak, as you know, stands for transformers. What are we here to transform? We are here to transform the landscape, the AI landscape of our nation. What does the AI landscape consist of? It primarily consists of the talent. It also consists of the opportunities that we go after, and it also consists of communicating those opportunities back to the aspirants. So we have literally taken this landscape and translated into three strategic objectives. As the three strategic objectives or the three priorities that AI Parivartaks will go after in 2021. And we will then evaluate how we have been progressing on these three pillars, and we will refine and elevate our objectives as we move on further into 2022 and beyond. So what I will do here is quickly walk you through these three strategic objectives and give you an idea of what we are trying to accomplish under each of these strategic objectives. The first and foremost is enabling the ecosystem. The ecosystem here is you, fundamentally you. You have all taken your precious time in the weekend and come and join this webinar. The primary purpose of this is to develop the AI talent that is, that is available in this country, but we want to polish it and ensure that they are suitable for the industry. We want to provide them the right level of intervention so that they not only just pick up the academic exposure that is given through the institutions, specifically through the educational institutions, they also want to provide a practitioner's perspective, an industry perspective to these aspirants. The aspirants could be from educational institutions, could be graduates, postgraduates, or even doctoral candidates. They could also be aspiring, professionals who want to switch over from, say from statistical domain or from mathematical domain into AI. So the purpose of this first strategic objective is to provide you with the right level of the tools, the techniques that are happening in the cutting edge of this field, and then bring it back to you from an industry practitioner's perspective. If you look at this panel, it's an elite club of industry leaders. We will talk about those industry leaders when we get into the introduction of the panelists. These are the people who are here to provide such a value addition to the ecosystem. That is the first objective. The second is, as Madhav spoke about, the NASSCOM's priorities, the nation's priority and the NASSCOM's priority, and the AI Center of Excellence within NASSCOM. If you look at it, we are looking at variety of projects that are happening at various state government and central government initiated projects. The AI Parivartaks does a very, very interesting role here. We play the role of a catalyst here, where we provide mentorship. We also provide technical, hands-on technical guidance to these projects, so that these projects can go as desired and accomplish the desired value that they are set forth to accomplish. And the third is, throughout this country, if you look at it, we all think that AI is just a hype, it's not happening. Trust me, there are some phenomenal innovations that are happening, which are very low cost innovations that are reaching out to the masses as we speak. They are lying in pockets. We want to bring the visibility so that they can scale across the nation, so that it can go and reach the 1.3 billion people of our nation. That is the primary purpose of our third objective, which is to identify such, success stories, identify such low-cost innovations which have the potential to scale for the entire nation. So we want to identify such opportunities and then bring it through the India AI portal. We want to bring them out as interviews or as success stories or as case studies, so that it not only inspires all of us, but also gives us an idea of what kind of problems can be solved specifically in India with such low-cost innovations. With that, I will hand it over to us now. Okay, I'll have to continue here. So I'll take one specific example, which is the Telangana AI mission, right? So one of our panel, one of our AI Parivartaks active member is Saurabh Agarwal. You will get to know more about him as we go through the webinar today. He and Madhav are extensively working with Telangana government in accomplishing this AI mission, right? A very specific initiative that is being run by the Telangana government is this grand challenge in the agriculture space. If you look at it, India, used to be an agrarian economy. Now we are transitioning into a service economy, and the future will be an AI economy. So what we are trying to do here is the huge the huge revenue and the huge opportunity that agriculture brings to our nation through its GDP contribution. We want to accelerate it. We want to transform this whole sector of our government, of our nation with AI. So what our, specifically our members from AI Parivartaks are doing here, especially Madhav and Saurabh, what they are doing here is formulating the specific opportunities as use cases or problems, and then marrying the data. The data is lying in different sources throughout the government agencies There is soil data, there is sensor data, there is rainfall data. It is all lying in pockets. How do you aggregate all of this data and then marry it to the problem so that you can solve those problems in a clinical way? This is exactly what Madhav and Saurabh are doing. This is what AI Parivartaks is aspiring to do. We are just talking about one use case. You will be seeing hundreds and hundreds of use cases coming in the future. This is giving you a glimpse of what AI Parivartaks is set out to do. This is one specific example which I thought I will zoom in and then show you what really in AI Parivartaks we really do. Over to you, Asna.
So yeah, this is Saurabh. Thanks, Gopal. And as we were working on the agriculture project as one of the first few initiatives, we realized that 60% of population in India works on agriculture, contributing to only 20% through the GDP. Now, India today has a GDP of in the FY20 of about $2.7 trillion. And by 2025, we aim to be a $5 trillion economy. Now, it has been conservatively estimated that about half a trillion impact would be coming only from the AI injection in all of these initiatives. We talked about agriculture. There is a huge amount of inefficiency out there in agriculture, and one of the outcomes looked at is doubling the farmer income, and that will have a significant impact on the farmer's life. And there are two main initiatives which will be supported by that. One is improving the agriculture yield and reducing the crop failure. These two are looks to be a simple problem statement, but with the amount of scale and data which we do, which we capture, a lot can be done. Most of us who are working in the field of analytics never think of agriculture as one of the top areas. But as we went through the journey of the project, we realized that this will be one of the top projects which will be impacting the India ecosystem. It's surprising that only like 85% of the people working in the field of AI today work on projects for outside India in different for different companies and countries. Working for India will have its own momentum, and some really cutting edge projects will be coming in. I'll touch upon some of the few here. AI for energy. As we know, energy, the biggest problem in energy is supply and demand. And knowing when we need the right supply by looking at the demand forecasting is a key thing. So the impact of energy on using AI will be very big. Similarly, for consumer goods and retail as well, by improving the efficiency in our logistics, in our deliveries. One other area which, because of COVID, has been really come to attention is AI in healthcare. While timely epidemic outbreak prediction is one of the top use cases, remote diagnostic and simplifying with the use of smart devices, which we use every day, is another big area. So there is a host of problem statements and opportunities which the government is working, and these are really cutting edge projects which are there. If you look at, has work been done? Yes, I would say surface has been scratched. But if you want to really work on projects for tomorrow, working on these projects will be a key opportunity. Now, with this, it kind of really establishes that India is one of the strong grounds for knowing and looking at many problem statements which we can work for India. On the other side, there has been a bit of hype around the analytics and the data science community. There has been this famous quote by Thomas Daveport that data science is the sexiest job of the 21st century. Now, working in this field for almost 1.5 decades now, I've never been able to find a full stack data scientist, to be honest. And that has been the biggest challenge. Now, looking at the whole analytics or data science ecosystem, there is a whole skills which are required to become and enter in this ecosystem. One of the aims for this workshop today is to demystify some of these foundational skills which can help you take that small first step and open up a world of opportunities for you. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box. That will be really great, and it will help us in the panel discussion, which will happen later as we go through it. Definitely, there are some questions which might come during the as we speak. So when we look at data science and AI as a career, there are three key things which make the career really strong. First is the domain knowledge. In the previous slide, we saw that there are different subject areas which one needs to work on, whether it is agriculture, whether it is telecom, whether it is CPG. All of this requires a strong understanding of what problems you are solving for and what industry you are working. So having a fair bit of understanding, at least as a consumer of that area, is a key thing to know what you are solving for. The second is the computer science skill. So when we say computer science skills is basically ability to use computers and some bit of programming. Programming does not mean that you need to know Python only. Any programming which you know is which is a foundational language with the C, C++. In my 1.5 years, 1.5 decades of career, we have seen uh, number of languages come and go, and things definitely become simple. So having a good grasp of flowcharts and basic computer programming is a very key computer science skill. And then the third is mathematics and statistics. Mathematics and statistics definitely is to understand how the data plays, how to look at data, how to clean the data, because that's where a lot of work happens. Now, as we are looking at these pie charts coming together, there are a bit of jobs which come at each intersection. A person with a strong computer science background and domain understanding unlocks the data management or the big data skills. Uh, People with strong mathematics and statistics and with strong computer science opens up the world of machine learning. With the use of mathematics and domain knowledge opens up the business analytics, and at the cusp of everything lies the data science and AI jobs. So this is a very simplistic view of the three foundational skills. It does not mean that one needs to be champion in everything. One will start from their strength, and then having decent or good awareness of others is a key thing. When we broaden up this thing now in terms of the job families, as we are telling, there are about 20 plus roles in the field of data science. Now, if we have to break it down into what are the three key activities one needs to do, while we are playing with terabytes and petabytes of data, one of the biggest and the most important thing is organizing the data in a very consumable manner. If we go and look at what does the mission statement of Google, it is not about creating a new email ID, email ecosystem or search. It talks about organizing the world's information. So in a very simplistic manner, data engineer's job is to organize the information asset one has, maintain it, structure it, and organize it in a big data platform. That's one of the big skills which data engineer plays the role. Data analysts are the ones who take the data, extracts, provides some meaningful insights, creates dashboards, and provides the information to management. And the data scientists are the one who use the data with the problem statements to find out how we can predict the future. Simple things like will the machine fail? Uh, will a pandemic outbreak happen? Are the things with the use of algorithms, with the use of science patterns, neural networks, the data scientists help us see the future. All of these three job families come together and unlock the analytics ecosystem. Now, within this, there are a lot of roles which I will touch upon very briefly. But with the use of statistics, programming, data management, Hadoop, AI, and deep learning, different roles are created. Uh, while there is a lot of misinformation spread that one role is better than others, I would definitely urge that all roles are equally important. Pick whatever you are good at and what you're passionate at and get into deep into it. One small examples is people. One of the things which I've seen is that data scientist is really quite overhyped sometimes. But what you will see in the next slide as well is uh, the need for data engineers is maximum today. And I read somewhere on LinkedIn that a great data engineer makes a data scientist 5 times more efficient. So So these are two ends of the spectrum. If work together in harmony, they really unlock pure music. Looking at the data science job ecosystem, on a conservative estimate today, there are about 5 lakh plus jobs, people who are touching and contributing in the in some bit of the career. There is definitely an overall gap of about 20-25% on the conservative side. The biggest gap, if we see today, is in the area of data engineering, which I was just talking about, and ML engineers. But there is a whole family of jobs which includes business intelligence, which is about creating nice visualizations. A data scientist, as we talked about, opens up the algorithms. DevOps engineers are the ones who help make sure that the codes and pipelines are taken care really well. Database administrators to manage the structured databases and all of them. In a nutshell, one of the things which I want to leave the thought with you and use the upcoming panel discussion very nicely to your advantage is look at the jobs family as an ecosystem. No job is bigger than the other one. Everyone has its own value to it. Look at what you're good at, whether you are passionate about problem solving, whether you are passionate about computer science, whether you are passionate about algorithms, and make that first move. And there is a huge career out there. With this, I would invite Asna to open up and introduce the panel.
Thanks a lot, Saurabh. That was very informative. So before we begin the panel discussion, I wanted to just quickly introduce to you all the members of the panel. The group is headed by, like it was mentioned, Gopalan, who's the head of AI Center of Excellence at Intel Corporation. And then there's myself. I'm the moderator for this session today. We have Vidya Shankar, who is the senior data scientist at Fractal Analytics. We have Nimish Gupta, who's data analytics manager at BCG. We have Paresh Banka, who's the engagement manager at Absolute Data Analytics. Saurabh Agarwal, who just spoke, he's the head of analytics at Lenskart. We have Madhav Bisa, who's the program director at NASCOM. Manju Kiran, who's the assistant manager at Bosch. And we have, last but not the least, Yogender, who's the associate manager at EY. Now, with that, I want to begin the panel discussion and just start with a question to Madhav. Madhav, given the hype, is data science really a good career choice, or is it just a lot of hype and not enough meat?
Well, given the choice, yes, data science is a great career move, and it's just not the hype, it's a reality now. So if you look at what the kind of times that we have been through with this pandemic and all, digitization and digital transformation, what was supposed to happen in 3 years happened in a quarter. So now that leaves a lot of opportunities there. So as Saurabh mentioned earlier, that there's a lot of gap, and this gap has just widened in terms of data science professionals. When I say data science professionals, that would mean right from the data engineer to a data scientist to an AI specialist and everyone. And the fact that AI is projected to rather contribute somewhere around $500 billion, that's $500 billion worth of GDP. So that particular, these two data points, they give you a sense on how important it has become. It's an imperative now these days. I'll give you an example. I have been into strategy consulting, and I moved my career to data science and AI because there were enough opportunities there, and there are so many opportunities. Number one. Number two, it gives you not just the satisfaction in terms of your job, but it also helps you or gives you an opportunity to contribute to society at large. For example, we spoke about the agriculture use case. Now, if there are not enough data science professionals, AI professionals, how can we even think about solving those problems? And solving the problems through DS&AI are faster, better, and in many cases, way cheaper than going to traditional ways. So making a move to within the domain of data science and I think it's a wise move. Yes, the person who's moving has to think through whether he or she is capable of being there or not. So have a good self-assessment criteria with you. If you are willing to put in those hours, if you're willing to work in a very uncertain, or you can say very ambiguous environment and all, if you're made for that, it's a great career choice.
Sure, that makes sense. I think although a lot of people do look at it sometimes critically and with a little bit of cynicism, but I would really second that and agree with you that the hype is justified. So my next question is to Yogender. Yogender, what do you think? There is always this fear which gets written about a lot, the fact that AI can be, can take away your jobs, and that's actually happening to some degree. But I want to ask you whether AI will be a net job killer or a net job creator.
Sure, Asna. So, Asna, if you see in the history of mankind, whenever there has been automation, there has been some loss of jobs that has happened. But I think it's been well compensated by the new category of jobs that have been created. If you see in the 19th century, textile mills, they were getting automated. There were a lot of protests by the workers. But in the end, there was new category of workers. There were better jobs, better salaries. Similarly, I think with AI as well, yes, there would be a slight loss of jobs, but the evolution would be compensating for that particular loss of jobs. I feel that AI would be impacting jobs in three ways. One is that it will replace a few jobs. For example, customer care. Right now, we are seeing a lot of AI apps and machine learning products which are helping customer care professionals. For example, when we lodge a complaint, we usually have a chat bot. And even though we do try for human contact and for a human agent, but I think in the future that just might go away. The second category is of AI augmenting our current professions, like medicine. We have seen a lot of new startups and new companies, how they are using AI for diagnosis of various diseases like cancer and other life-threatening diseases. I think that's one area where AI will certainly augment, and the doctors and the professionals will have to reorient themselves having this new skill. The third is creating a new category of jobs. So, for example, with 20 years back, if someone told me, there would be a profession called digital marketing, people would have laughed at me saying, okay, there's nothing called digital marketing. But the fact is that we don't even know what new categories of jobs would be there in the next 20 years. For all you know, there might be something called as a bot manager, somebody in an organization managing all the bots or AI bots. So the point is that AI will not be replacing jobs. AI will certainly augment our current capabilities. And I think we need to reskill ourselves and really equip ourselves to be able to manage this change. It's all about change management and how we transform our careers. And I think, as we also saw the various job categories, I think we really have to pick a skill from that and augment our current professions.
Right. So with that, I wanted to just delve a little deeper into if somebody is interested in pursuing a career in data science to become a data engineer or a data analyst specifically, what are those steps they should follow? How do they go about this journey? Paresh, can you please answer that?
Thanks a lot, Asna. So as we see, we have all been using data a lot in current times. So when we talk about data, past today world, it would not be an exaggeration, or to use the new cliche about data being the new oil. I mean, both of these statements would not be an exaggeration, right? And when we talk about data, everyone has been using data ever since. If you look at any decision that we make in our personal life is based on our previous experiences and our learnings. This is nothing but the data. Now, this data was stored in silos. It was available with the individuals, but it was not available to the masses, right? And talking about the current scenario, let me bring up some statistics and figures. So, 90% of the entire data available in today's world has been created in past 2 years. And as we talk, in the past year, we have been generating around 1.7 MB of data every second per person. Every second per person, as per some of the reports. And, in a day, Google manages around 3.5 billion searches. So that involves a lot of amount of data, right? So we would need a lot of computational part, that is the machine part. But at the same time, we need a lot of human power Why? To organize, manage, and store this data. So this is where the data engineers come into the picture. They are the ones who would be managing, storing, and ensuring that the data is available for every individual as and when it is needed, right? But what good this stored data is if I do not get any information out of this data, right? So data analysts are the ones who help the business make sense out of this data. They analyze, they slice and dice, they beat the data out or massage the data to make a story out of it, to understand that what this data is trying to say. So now we have the data stored in different places. We have understood what the data is talking about, but all this is past. What should be the next action? And that is where data scientists come into the picture. They talk about the future and help the business understand that what should be the next best action. This is the mathematical evaluation. They are the ones who quantify different aspects of the happenings in the world. So if you talk about one event that is happening, or let's say cancer, as someone was talking about in the field of cancer. So we would have to understand that what are the different aspects mathematically related to each other. That is what data scientist is going to quantify, right? In terms of technical skill set, if I may segregate between the three, data engineers are the ones who are the ones working towards the database side of the things. They are the ones who are analyzing the data, storing the data in the pipelines, and they work on the SQL, Hadoop, Scala platforms. Whereas the data analysts are the ones who work on the PowerPoint presentations, Excel, and visualization dashboards. And the data scientists, they work with everyone and they work with the business closely. They are the ones who design the models on statistical analytical platforms like SQL, Python, R, SAS, etc. Right? In terms of data, in terms of the decision making, if we look at it from a decision making perspective to do a career choice, data engineers are not directly involved with any sort of decision making. They are just the providers of the information. Data analysts are the ones that help business make the decision, but they are not directly involved with the decision making as well. However, when we talk about data scientists, they are the ones who drive the decision along with the business, because they are the ones who are saying that this is the next best action, right? And their commitments, their statements are being monitored, because that is what is going to drive the business value add for the business. Okay. However, to summarize everything, if someone would ask that which would be the best career option, I think it is not what you should do, rather what you want to do. So that is where we would have to make a difference between what we want to do versus what we should do. So I think that is the key difference between the three aspects of the roles that we have in data science, Asna.
Thank you, Paresh. That was a very good way to describe the differences between data science, data engineer, and data analyst, and what do they do different from each other. But you mentioned a lot of languages. You talked about platforms, but I think a lot of times people who are interested in entering the field of artificial intelligence, they don't know how to code. So if you are not someone who codes, how do you transition your career into data science? I want to ask you that, Vidya. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, thanks, Asna. So let me give a perspective, and then let's understand the idea of coding and where it exactly fits in. So according to Gartner, only 50% of AI projects move from prototype stage to a production stage. Personally, I have seen that many machine learning projects fail to take off, in spite of we have awesome data scientists in place, due to one primary reason, that is failing to understand the business problem. So we will need more and more people to first understand the business problem, understand the domain well, be it in finance, insurance, manufacturing, and get to the core of formulating the business problem, how we can solve it, translate it at various levels through effective storyboarding. And that's the job of what this SME, subject matter expert, domain consultants or consultants and business analyst is going to play a role in. And thanks to this augmented data science tools, we really don't need a deep coding knowledge. These tools are really helpful in translating or offloading the job of modeling, exploring the data from experienced data scientists to a role who's a consultant or business analyst who can experiment with different ideas on their own and without and explore different changing constraints, different marketing conditions, and do a lot of experimentation on their own without a without like, you don't need like a very highly experienced data scientist to do all these things. And that's the success of the business problem. That's the success of understanding the business problem and finding means to solve it. So coming to the coding, the concept of like the coding is not my cup of cake isn't really right these days. So I think the coding has considerably been simplified these days. Thanks to this high level libraries like what we have like scikit-learn, Keras, FastAI, PyTorch. With just a few lines of code, we can build a full-fledged machine learning models. So to add to that, we don't even need to pick and choose like what is the right machine learning algorithm that fits my problem. Thanks to this AutoML tools from H2O or Google, Azure ML, they do the job of even picking the right algorithm, which gives the best results for us. And getting a little more deeper, if we are working on some of the machine learning algorithm and we are like totally bogged down in terms of what kind of parameters to choose, how do I select the right kind of parameters for my algorithm? I think there are just with a few lines of code, like there are tools or libraries like HyperOp, Search, or I don't know if people have heard about this NAS, which is Neural Architecture Search, which can also pick and choose the right type of deep learning architecture for you to solve your problem. So I think the second part of it is like coding has been considerably simplified. So it's not like to be a deep coder. Just a few lines of code can help build a machine learning model. And coming to the last part of it is where still you're like don't know where to start from the code. So there are still no code AI tools that's available. Like Azure ML Studio has been there for some time, or Data Robot. And in fact, like I myself started my first model building exercise with IBM's SPSS modeler. So it was just like a click and drag kind of thing. You load the data, you build the model, select the model, and then you see the output in a very, I'm just talking in a very high level picture. So you still don't need to code it. Like there are some pick and choose tools which can be used much effectively. So to summarize, I think first is to focus on business problems. So if you're a guy who likes to solve problems, you can start thinking on those lines rather than getting into coding, and change the mindset that the coding is being simplified, so you can do coding. And third is to look out for like the no code AI tools. I would typically start with the item number 1 and 3, that is business problems and no code AI to begin with, and then slowly get into the idea of coding. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy coding as you get through. So that's in brief about what I wanted to share about the no coding thing.
I strongly agree with you, Vidya. I think what we really need to work on is bring in more domain experts into AI so that they can solve for the domain. And they have a perspective which a regular data scientist who's outside the field will not have. And we, I think, underplay the importance of domain knowledge, common sense, problem solving, which can together make up what Saurabh was referring to as the role of a business analyst, and then some. So, Nimish, what is your point of view on the art of storytelling in analytics? It's written about, it is talked about a lot, that storytelling with data. How is that relevant in the field of data science and artificial intelligence?
Right. So in past 40 minutes, we have heard a lot of terms, right? One is on data, um, engineers, data scientists, and then there was another term called taken as decisions, right? So today's world is not only about big data, but it is also about big decisions. And these decisions which are enabled by data, there is two extremes to it. There is one art and there is another science. And how you bridge the two comes from the art of storytelling. The storytelling comes from the fact that what is happening in your business through data, how you investigate it is through a data analysis process. And when you put these things together for a business person to take a decision, you need to bring out a story and say, this is a kind of a investigation report, just like we see a lot of these days. All the NIAs do this, that this was step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And this is how the entire sequence of events have happened, and your business has been impacted in such a way. This entire art of putting all the insights from your data to enable a big decision is what a storytelling is. Now, here comes the basics of how you do it, right? So, first is, as soon as you define a problem, you do hypothesis testing. Then you use different techniques to solve the problem and define a insight which is coming out of different techniques like regression, segmentation, all your supervised and unsupervised learnings. When you ensemble all these insights together, you come up with a story, and that is what is presented, and we come up with a recommendation or an action item which will enable your business to perform better. So far what we see that data engineer, data scientist, or data analyst, these are all segregated by your different competencies in your skill set and technologies, and there are a lot of courses that you will go through it. But storytelling, or the art of storytelling, is something which you will acquire as a skill. More time you spend with real time problems, the better storytelling skills you will acquire, right? So I would suggest, think of your problems from a business perspective. Think if any insight or analysis that you're doing, how it transforms to an action item for the business is the right journey to start for your storytelling.
Very interesting. I think you have data points which don't make sense individually, but when you start digging deeper, you get information, and if you start connecting them, you get knowledge and insights. And once you add domain knowledge to it is what becomes wisdom, and therefore you create impact with such insights which is related to the problem at hand. Thank you, Nimish. Saurabh, I want to come back to you and ask you how NASSCOM with AI Parivartaks is playing its part in enabling engineers transition into data science careers. I know this workshop is one of the first one, but if you can elaborate on that.
Thanks, Asna. So as I was talking about in my presentation, there is a huge gap of people who are needed in data science and what we have available. So people who are in the data science ecosystems are always looking for challenging problems, and people who are in the associated field students. And I see a lot of questions out there that how can one enter this field? So to me, the best way to enter a field is by learning and then by experiencing it. So I'll just elaborate what I mean. So for example, if you want to learn swimming, while you can read a book on swimming, but if you jump in the water, there's a fear of getting drowned. And trust me, there's been two instances where I almost drowned. And those are separate stories I'll tell sometime later. But to really experience the data science world, a lot of students and all, they come that I know Python, I know Power BI, so I'm a data scientist. But when you start scratching the surface, there is this phenomena: when you know little, you think that you know 90%. But to really work and understand what is to experience it, the best way is to work on a real life problem statement. There are a lot of Kaggles of the world. There is a lot of problem statements we talked about in India which are there. There is a lot of problem statements in your college and in school which are there. So pick up a problem statement, try to solve it, try to code it. Unless you go through the grunt of cleaning up the data, finding the right algorithm, trying to present it, not being able to communicate the results. Once you go through the entire life cycle of that project, you will come out 10 times better than what you were just by reading a book on analytics. So to me, the way we are enabling this is, as we talked about, there's a $500 billion opportunity and there are a lot of problem statements available. Uh, don't need to only look at us, look at anywhere in the country. Try to take one pilot project, spend 1 week, 1 month, spend few hours and go through the life of it and see whether it's your cup of tea. Uh, you will get that rush which you get before the exams, that how easy or difficult it is. Once you do it 2-3 times, you will really like it, and you will understand how interesting this world is. When you see that you are able to improve the life of a person using your skill, the rush which you get, adrenaline rush which you get, is very different. We will talk about it at the end, how one can volunteer, and we have some projects which you can experience it. But just learning the skill will not help. It's also not a right brain activity. I would want to definitely elaborate. communicating analytics by data science professionals is the toughest thing, because people with right brain will only be talking about numbers, but when you have to influence, there's a lot of emotions which go into it. So a balanced combination of right brain and left brain activity and a good communication skills helps you influence.
Thank you, Saurabh. I know we're in the middle of the session, but I find a very relevant question from the audience where he's asked how to find better mentorship and go a long way through in this field. We tried taking courses online, but could not get industry knowledge or a chance to get through it. How to achieve it?
So is that a question for me?
Yes, Saurabh, because you were
Sorry.
talking about the very same thing.
Yeah. So, mentorship is available to people who seek mentorship. Okay. And we are there all over the place. There is like millions of people there on the internet. And what COVID has taught us that we don't need to be physically present. So by reading articles, by engaging in debates, by attending webinars, definitely you don't get nice 5-star food, but you have to live with the coffee at home. You can engage and learn. See, people who seek help, they will definitely get. Okay, I think so. None of this panel are like will refrain from replying or helping, but the help needs to be really substantial. Okay, 90% of the help which comes is this is my CV, help me with a job. Okay, the help needs to be more beyond it. Okay, volunteer for solving a problem statement, volunteer for helping somebody. There are professors across the prestigious colleges looking for good interns them. So to me, go beyond just networking for a materialistic reason, but network for learning. That's what I would say. And from my personal experience, Madhav pulled me into the agriculture thing, and I didn't know any bit of agriculture. And I spent 1 week understanding what is Rabi, Kharif, and all. I had to call up all my cousins who are in the field of agriculture, and they were also amazed that he wanted never to be in agriculture, and now he's trying to understand its grassroots. So the process of learning is all over. It's like you have to learn domain from the people who are experiencing. You have to learn. So, but the answers are one to the seekers, to be honest. Nobody is stopping you to say that no, I'll not help you.
Very
I know it's a
poignantly
hard
put.
statement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just adding on to what Saurabh said is that when we launched this Agri AI challenge, that there were some students who came through the MOOC courses and projects and all, and they had this issue of not having real-time data to work with and get their hands dirty.
Yes,
So,
that's one of the questions also.
oh, lovely.
Thank you, Madhav.
Great. So what happened was this: when these couple of students, couple of learners, I would say, when they looked at on the LinkedIn post that we had shared this, they wrote to me and said that, is there an opportunity for me to contribute? Can I contribute? And this is what I bring in, and this is what I can help with. And we had two great people as interns there. Now they can go back and say that we have learned something. We have actually put our foot in the door in this domain. We have shifted our career, and we are here now. So now, as Saurav rightly said, to learn swimming, you have to get into the water. So they dared. You have to have that audaciousness in you to dare in this field.
Very inspiring, Madhav. So before we take on questions from the audience full-fledged, I would want to pose a question to Gopalan. I want to ask you, how do you go about career progression? What is the career progression of a data scientist, a data engineer, and an analyst? How can I visualize the next 5 to 10 years for myself if I'm looking at these career options?
Sure. Thanks, Asna. So the career growth, typically even I had that mindset, right? We all think that we have to grow vertically, What it means is make more and more money, make, get higher and higher position, title, and then, get as soon as possible, right? That I call it as, in a programmer's paradigm, I call it as a greedy approach, right? The other approach is a getting ready approach instead of a greedy approach. A getting ready approach can happen in two ways. I call it as a T model in career development, which is you figure out what is your core competency. Like organizations, we talk about core competencies, right? What is your core competency? What is your key strength? Are you a great storyteller? Are you a great program manager? Are you a great, are you somebody who has got passion for data? Are you a data hacker? Can you hack the data, get some insights? Figure out your core competency, right? Then that will be the area in which you will specialize. That is the vertical part of the team. The horizontal part is the 20 plus roles that Saurav spoke about, right? Each of them are complementary to deliver a value out of a program or a project. Pick up some of them. You don't have to pick up all of them. Identify your core strength and pick up some of the adjacencies, right? You are now growing horizontally as well as vertically. When will organizations recognize you? When you add value. Not in just saying that I have done 20 MOOC courses, now give me a promotion to a principal engineer, right? No way. That's not going to happen. You got to add value. Figure out by which ways you can add value. It could be through program management, it could be through data science, it could be through machine learning engineering. Absolutely, right? All these opportunities will be there, like Saurabh said, for a seeker. Are you a passionate seeker? Do you have fire in your belly to go around and then seek opportunities? Then the world will conspire to help you to grow. Otherwise, you will stay where you are. So the key message is identify your core competency, identify the adjacencies by which you can add value. Growth will come automatically.
Gopal, can you give some examples of these opportunities? How do you, get your foot through the door? How do you initiate getting involved in such opportunities?
So there are two ways, right? One, as Madhav and Saurabh beautifully mentioned, one is if you are a student, then look for voluntary opportunities by which you can contribute, right? AI Parivartaks is an opportunity. For example, there are like Saurabh mentioned, there are professors, there are governments initiatives which are looking for talent. See whether your talent and skills with which you can contribute for those projects. Sign up for those voluntary opportunities. Somehow, in India, we think that if I have to do something, will I get paid? What is will I get paid for it? I think the biggest reward for any work is work. You will get more work. If you're getting more work, that is the biggest reward. So you got to look for where I can go dirty my hand given my strengths. Where can I really contribute? It could be even in your educational institution, right? You have your computer labs, you have your compute storage available, and you have opportunities. For example, can you, for example, detect automatically if somebody is using a vending machine or a dispensing machine? Or can you come up with a system that can solve some very mundane problems that are pertaining to your computer lab itself? Or say, for example, can you automate some of your college-related business processes? It could be admission process. It could be predicting class occupancy. Variety of such problems can be derived if you look around. Then then you start working on those problems and create a meaningful project out of it and solve it, right? You have already started building your resume. The world will come knocking at your door when you start producing meaningful projects instead of putting tic-tac-toe that you took in a MOOC course, right? Nobody is going to look at it. In fact, you are diluting the value of resume when you put such things as accomplishments in your resume.
Just to add one thing, Asna, on what Gopalan said, for an aspiring data scientist, the resume is not on your paper or on LinkedIn, it resides in GitHub. If you are passionately doing things, you are writing these programs, statistical techniques, implementing them, solving some problems, these all reside in your GitHub. And if you put that GitHub link in your piece of paper, which is resume, it gives you a different amount of credibility to put that foot in the door, as you were mentioning. So work on it, put those GitHub repositories for yourself.
And what about people who don't code? Because we're trying to address the audience who are also not coding.
Right. So go back to the Venn diagram that Saurav was saying, right? Computer science, domain expertise, and statistics. Pick your strengths and join the dots and create that right mix for you, right? Whether I want to be towards the domain side, whether I want to be on the computer science side, or do I want to be on the statistics side? In case you are more from a domain side of things and you understand the business aspect more than the mathematics, then definitely white papers, understanding of the situations, understanding of the data, like from FICCI, CII, all these institutes release the data, analyze them, build a perspective on it, author those papers for yourself. So that will give you a lot more credibility according to the Venn diagram that we see, is which is very relevant.
So Asna, just want to add to
Mm.
this one. There is this question related to this topic that I am a mechanical engineer, how no zero coding, how to start and become a data science engineer on this. So I'll take a personal example. Okay, in my last company, I was working on a project for Industry 4.0 transformation, and AI is a big aspect of enabling that. Now, after working with data scientists and all who have no clue of mechanical engineering, we had a big challenge of translating the information into relevant thing. So we actually ended up hiring a person who was an industry expert into our team and who knows zero analytics, but he had passion to learn. So he played the intermediary role of the business analyst or the functional expert to translate it from our language to others. In the same thing, with this role is called kind of citizen data scientist of translating it and driving it. Because when he took the analytics, he told us how to simplify it for the consumption of the shop floor, because those people on shop floor, they hardly are graduates or postgraduates. Okay, not even postgraduates. They, most of them are 10+2 or ITL pass outs. So the translation roles is a huge amount of roles to take the implementation and success of these projects. People who have passion for driving AI can come from the domain expertise and become the torch bearers of driving the transformation, because if they understand it, they can translate it in a very nice language for the people at the ground.
And would you say that this demand is going to explode, given that new use cases in areas which have so far not been thought through are going to emerge, and therefore you need contextual information? Would you say that?
Yeah. Yep. See, we need people who know agriculture very good. We need people who understand the energy sector and who have a good passion for that. They don't need to be data scientists and all. They don't need to know even coding, but they need to have a passion of translating the benefits of that and consuming the things. And those are the people I feel are the ones who make this things simple, output simple. It's almost like Shah Rukh Khan does not use Byju's, but he's able to sell Byju's because he's the brand ambassador of it. Okay, translate, like he's not even the target group, but he's kind of the maybe an example, but he's kind of the torch bearer of driving it, and he gets the he has the message across. He can connect with the audience. Most of the data scientists have a tough time connecting. Even they will talk the Python language and then the statistics language, which is sometimes hard for me to also understand.
So
So then we
before we
say,
start,
Yeah.
so before we start taking questions, is anybody speaking?
Yeah.
Yes,
No, no,
yes,
go
Vidya. Sorry.
Vidya Shankar here.
Yes, please.
Piano point. So yeah, I think adding to Saurav's thing, I am a mechanical engineer and I could transform, and it has been a long journey. So two things I would like to share is, like, one, again, all the points that we have already covered, the passion and problem solving and everything. But two more things is, like, one is the teamwork, which is always not really blown out, but find three or four like-minded people who are good at few things. Like, somebody might be good at coding, somebody might be good at data, somebody might be good at bringing the team together, somebody might be good at communicating the ideas. So work as a team, try to find three or four. And also, most important thing is, as a part of the team, is try to find out what is the value that you're going to add to each other. Because person who might be coding, he might not be a best communicator. So you might probably add value to what he wants to learn. So if you are able to do that, come together and try to solve a problem together, that itself is going to be a lot of strength that you can add to. One is finding a mentor, but another is team playing is very, very important. You are not an island over here. You are going to need people to support you and learn from each other. And the second thing, if you want to also get into the transitioning mode, is be open for being vulnerable, because you are going to seek help. and you are not always going to be successful, and you might be showing something where it could be looked upon that, oh, you don't know something, but it's okay. You want to learn something, you want to reach somewhere, you should be okay with being vulnerable and be open to it in terms of whatever the comments get passed on. So you know the destination and you have to reach those destination. So these are the two couple of things. And as a person who's transitioned from mechanical engineering to data science, this I'm just
very well
so,
put, Vidya. I think interpersonal skills are highly underrated, and these soft skills, even in the various job roles that are mentioned by SSC NASSCOM, it very clearly highlights the various skills that you need, which are not even technical in nature, and those are something that people don't even realize are an integral part of even roles like data science, data scientist, data analyst, data engineer.
I just
So
have
add
one
to
point, Asna, to there.
Yeah,
Sorry. So
yeah.
being a mechanical engineer, I love this journey that I have
Lot of
been through, right?
mechanical engineers.
Yes, yes. So I'll tell you, you will find a lot of mechanical engineers in this data analytics field. The basic reason behind there is the first encounter with statistics happen in mechanical engineering discipline in terms of Six Sigma, quality, normal distribution. All those things are relatively more exposed in a mechanical engineering discipline, right? So the statistics background enables a good career in data science, and mechanical engineers are taught that as default as a learning there. Secondly, I guess the next logical step for you to go is and build some domain expertise in whichever field you understand in manufacturing. That gives you a lot more access to problems. And then if you have a understanding, pick up programming. I love programming, so I was able to pick it up and do it in multiple languages. But if it is a good thing for you, you will pick it up soon, or else with statistics and domain knowledge, you will be able to at least establish yourself in this industry.
just
Sure.
to add to
Yes.
if
Yes,
you
Manju.
are looking to get started in data science or data related career, you all have to do is just start playing with data. You need to have a mindset that data is oil, and how do you create an engine to consume the oil. There are a lot of new jobs opening up in this domain where just for annotation, and annotation is a very small part of model building, and we are expecting like $7 to $8 billion of annotation business to be done without any technical knowledge required over there. All you have to do is label all the data sets that you get. It can be image data set, it can be sensor data set, where you identify and tag failures. In image, you can probably tag some medical images, or it can be image of some activity being done, whether the person is wearing face mask or not face mask in a COVID situation. It can be natural language processing, where if you're good in language, you can annotate sentiments, certain grammatical portions, where these can be used to build interactive chatbots, right?
That's
So
great. I think what you're saying, Manju, is that if I think you're at the initial stages of your career and you want to get introduced to data science and AI, annotation is a very good way to be exposed to the field.
you don't need a coding knowledge to start
Exactly.
annotation. And if you're interested in exploring what the data is saying, you can go with tools like Data Robo, H2O, where you need minimal data engineering skills, or a data analyst skills, or a data science skills, because it's all WYSIWYG tools. You just have to drag and drop, just upload the data, and the tool will tell what are the next steps for you to follow are. So if you are looking to get started today. Spend 15 to 20 minutes on analytics vidya, where you get to download a lot of data sets. Kaggle, you get to download a lot of data sets. Use this no code tools, get started, play around with the data, and then see if you really enjoy. And then you can then approach one of us, or approach any of industry experts to identify what are your strengths and how you can get started with career in data science, because there's opportunities for everybody, and coding is not a requirement to get started in data domain or data science as a career.
That's very useful, Manju. I think that first step is something that, I'm sure that the audience is looking for. Before I start taking questions from the audience, we have limited time. I just would like to request Gopalan to, take us through, what it is that we can do, the audience members to be part of the Parivartaks program.
Sure. Very good. Okay, give me a second. But we will share the file. No worries, I'll talk to it. So first and foremost, want to thank all the panel members and Asna for moderating this excellent discussion. Anyhow, we still have time. We will continue the discussion and take questions from the audience. But just to summarize, there have been a lot of questions on, hey, how can I start my data science career? I can sense that as a common thread. So the first and foremost is, now I want to leave you with three things. The first is learn, and learn. That you should have enormous appetite to learn, because this field, there are hundreds and hundreds of research papers that come out every day. There are thousands of researchers throughout the world working on this field and pushing the boundaries of this field. So there is no end for learning in this field. So the first check that you need to do is, are you a voracious learner? If so, then this field is the right field for you. And to flip the other way, if you want to get into this field, learn and learn and learn. Learn continuously. Learn not just about only the that technology that is changing or evolving in the AI landscape, but also learn about these kind of opportunities, right? What NASSCOM is providing, what AI Parivartaks is providing, what are the various other initiatives that are happening in the country where you can go and sign up for. Those are the things you need to look at. So be an active learner. That is the first key message. Second is develop an active network with your fellow AI professionals, right? If you have to look at your, like one of our panel members said, look at the network which has this similar thinking like yours. Look for those like-minded people, right? Who can elevate your thinking. That's very, very important. Who can help you to think much more broadly, who can help you to raise your aspirations further and further. Look at that kind of building such a network. With the digital world here today, I mean, I don't have to tell you how to build a network. You have all been experts in that. Instead of just being spending more time in WhatsApp or in Facebook, spend focus time on who are the leading AI professionals in this country, who are the leading AI thought leaders in this country, who are the academic sources of excellence whom you can reach out to and build your network. That is the second important thing. So first is learn, and second is build your network. Third, very, very important, right? Like many of our panel members beautifully mentioned, just learning a book, just going through some papers, watching YouTube videos, these are no use. You have to roll up your sleeves and dirty your hand. You got to dive into a project, like Saurabh mentioned, right? How do you learn swimming? By diving into the water, but not by watching a YouTube video on how to swim, or not by reading a book on 30 steps to improve your swimming. No way, it's not going to help. Just dive into it. You will figure out how to survive, right? So that is the most important thing. So the call for action is, Parivartaks is extending its arms to enroll, it is seeking volunteers who can come and join our group, right? We ourselves are like you, we have joined, and now we want to pass on the benefits that we have got, to our the additional seekers who are coming into this group. So Saurabh has sent out a form. Please go ahead and fill it out. Mention your talent, mention your passion, and how would you like to contribute. Obviously, we cannot enroll all the 1.3 billion people of our nation. We are going to go through, have a selection process by which we will select people. Essentially, these people will get an opportunity to work, like how Saurabh is working on the Telangana AI mission. You have data, you have problem to work on, and you have a network by which you can reach out, ask questions, and then learn from the experts and develop your skills. So to wrap up, I want to leave you with the three things that I mentioned, right? Learn, network, and contribute. Then you have started already on your journey. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gopalan. I'm sure that this will be a great opportunity for people to enroll themselves to apply for AI Parivartaks and hopefully gain from the experience that it will provide them. I'll now want to start taking questions from the audience. Some very good questions coming in. I have a question from Mr. Saurabh Mondal. He's saying, I'm currently trying to shift my career from academics, computational physics, to data science and AI. And the biggest problem is the availability of real life data. For the jobs, every company is asking experience in real business problems. How do you get your hands on industry data, which is real time in nature? And can you list some of the sources that will really help?
You can get access to industry data on websites like Kaggle. You can get it on Analytics. You have a huge data set over there. University of South California, they have open source a lot of their data. Singapore government, they have open source a lot of their data. So you can download, search for a data set, identify, download. You also get to the annotated data, so you can play with them. If you go to Kaggle, you will get data set with solutions where you can benchmark if you're able to do a better accuracy or able to get better results of the data than what is already available. Then you can open source initiatives like NASCOM, where you can get data. So data is available everywhere. You just have to get connected to the right people, or you have to just reach out to the audience over there and post your questions asking for data. There are a lot of scientific research communities over there who will contact you and share the data.
Another valuable resource mentioned by Saurabh in the chat window is data.gov.in. Very useful resource. Saurabh, you want to quickly talk about it?
Yeah, so I think so. One of the things which I tell many people is, people might hate me for it, we are a data rich and an AI poor country. Okay, so we have 1.3 billion people. We have so much of data points, and for just 2 rupees of Google Pay scratch card, we are happy to give our entire phone book data. So data is available. Data for India is available, and AI for India is waiting. Like when we worked on the agriculture project, we found that there was weather data available live from the websites. There was crop agriculture data available. It's there on the government portals. We know a lot of US websites, to be honest. We need to start seeking India problems and starting it. Like working for almost this time, I really feel very inspired by the revolution which we have done on the product side by Beam and UPI apps, and it has taken India 5 years ahead. Google is recommending this framework to the US government to implement, and it's still in approval. Okay, and things like demonetization happened. Now, with that use of data, with the use of the cash flow data, the fintech companies are building the next level of lending models and cutting the middlemen and making sure that affordable lending is available. So there is huge amount of data available, maybe not in that clean shape or size. One has to look at creative ways of doing it, but definitely look at the public data sources available and feel free to reach out to this panel, look at projects out there. But government really pushes a lot of aggregated data, not at an individual level. You will not be able to know what is Saurabh doing at multiple things, but you will be able to know some macro statistics and all, and using that. And the next level is volunteer for a project. As soon as you volunteer for a project, people will give you that data for doing it. So
thank you, Saurabh. I agree with you about the product ecosystem maturity that you mentioned. I think people are looking to India when it comes to, the evolution that has happened in the financial sector. Countries like Germany, which are perceived to be so evolved, they are struggling with online payments because of the pandemic. So I think this is something that we can try and achieve with artificial intelligence in other sectors also.
One thing which I would want to add, we have taken the products to level 1. The next level of the product is the AI into it. Just think about the maps ecosystem.
Right.
First, the maps came in, they digitized it. We used to pay for the map service. Now, knowing the traffic was the AI into it. So to making the products intelligent is where the AI will come in and make it better. And we have products all over the place, whether it's in the manufacturing side. So the next level of ERP will be an AI-based ERP. The next level of a payment system will be a AI-based payment system or a chatbot. So take any product, add the word AI to it, and then try to make it simpler. Is where there is a plethora of use cases.
Exactly. AI will enhance the current products available. They're going to add customizability and customization and personalization to the whole experience, which is going to be an added layer of evolution. So quickly want to take another question from one of our audience members. Give me a second. I have a question from Mr. Prakhar. He's asking, how do you proceed with using AI? Do you unpack the mathematics behind the algorithms and trying to rethink, or do you use existing intelligence and algorithms out there to apply to a new use case? How do you go about it?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Yeah, so I think it all depends on the business case that we are trying to solve and what kind of data we have in hand. And are we able to solve the problem with the existing algorithms? So just for example, like in deep learning or computer vision, we have something called transfer learning. So we have pre-trained models which has been trained for like millions of images, like in a data set like ImageNet. And that's like somebody who is like experienced, we are hiring them and then trying to make use of them in our work. So it's much similar to that. So the model has been trained and we are trying to, and that we know that what kind of algorithm was there, what kind of network architecture worked there, and we try to apply that and quickly experiment. So that's like, we want to quickly see how the results are. And if that doesn't work, for example, like transfer learning might not work if you're trained on something like cars and images of like trees and vegetables, apples, oranges, and you're trying to solve something related to medical. So like MRI, so we might not be able to find some good results. So then you might have to train something from the scratch and build your own architecture, or try to find somebody who has pre-trained on the MRI kind of images to use it. So that's just one example. Like if you're looking at something like more like a business problem to solve, we know whether it's a classification problem or regression problem or unsupervised learning. There are a set of algorithms that we try and test it out, or we can do an ensemble of algorithms to make sure that we get the output that we are really looking for. So it all depends on the kind of problem that you have in hand.
To add one point there on what Vidya said, to get started, I guess the first point is to establish the problem statement, and then you break it down into smaller chunks, build a hypothesis set that you want to test, and then comes your techniques and the maths and the all the algorithms for you to test each and every hypothesis and build an algorithm around it, right? And then comes your insight and recommendation. So first three steps are very important. So spend time on that. Make sure you are able to break down one problem statement into smaller chunks and then address them.
There are also questions around what is the best role, what is the salary. I don't think that there is one correct answer to that, but and through the workshop we've been insisting that all roles are important, and you have to get into it with the intention of learning and not with greed, like Gopalan mentioned. So I want to take up another question is, Gopal, I want to ask you that, what are the key skills that you often find missing in the current crop of AI professionals that you have been interacting with?
Yeah, certainly. Like I think Nimish had a similar question, right? As a AI leader and as a practitioner, what I see in the current crop of talent that is available in our country is very weak questioning skills. Recommend gathering skills. When somebody says I have a problem, when you're talking to a business, and when your business partner is articulating a problem, how do you systematically peel the story and then go into the crux of the problem? Because what is expressed as a problem may not be the problem itself. So the skill of smartly questioning, the skill of smartly gathering the requirements is missing. The second is, everyone wants to download TensorFlow and Python and do only coding, right? That's not how the industry works. You've got to identify your problem, You got to know what are the key data elements, what are the missing data elements, and then take the problem through various steps. I will not get into that. But the key skills that are woefully missing in the ecosystem today is requirement gathering skills, communication skills. People are willing to communicate only to pandas and Python. No way, it's not going to work. Will you be able to succinctly put your points in it need not be even in a PowerPoint, right? In a very systematic and simple way, will you be able to express what you have found and what is your recommendation? I found people developing wobbly legs when I put them in front of my senior management. These are some of the lead data scientists from elitist of the elite academic institutions in this country, right? They don't teach. They only teach computational statistics or statistical learning, right? They don't teach how to communicate. They don't teach how to tell your story. They don't tell how to articulate the value of a problem. These are some of the challenges I see in the crop of the talent that is coming from the academia and coming from the industry also, right, today. This is where I think people have to develop. Downloading TensorFlow, learning Python, it is necessary but not sufficient.
And one thing which
just
is
to
there,
add to that, Gopalan, just one point to
Yes,
add
Paresh.
is structured thought process. I think one of the things that I find a gap between the demand and supply is the structured thought process. Because generally, the people coming from academia, what they want to do is just build the models. They think that model is going to answer the question. No, it's not that. You would have to understand why is it working, what you should look into the data for. So
That's
I
a
think
very
that is
good
something.
point. Paresh, I want to add to that. I think, there is a phenomenon, there is a framework called first principles thinking. And I'm truly a fan of that when you question the assumptions you're working with. And if you once you get into the habit of questioning the assumptions, is when you realize that a bulk of people are really working with assumptions that are faulty. And you scratch the surface and you realize that though even the assumptions to a certain degree, unless absolute facts, should be questioned.
To add to that, Asna, a couple of points. I just loved the point that Gopalan made. Since most of us are students, like we go to the exams, right? Typically, what happens is that once we get the question paper, we are not even seeing the question in a full-fledged manner. We just start writing the answer. And that's what most of us start doing, right? Once we get the data, we just start coding with pandas and see what is the table and other things. So like what Gopalan mentioned, we need to understand the question in a deep sense. We need to understand the question in the right way. Then we can formulate our answers and solutions. And what he mentioned is like, whatever the solution that we are thinking of, it's actually could not be the solution. It could be something else. So, so I think that's one thing that I just wanted to add to what Gopalan does.
one point, Asna, I guess I would like to cover here is on always learning mode. So this is a space which will continue to evolve. Always things that get added, problems will continue. So you should have that appetite to learn. Even the industry leaders and veterans like Saurabh, Gopalan, they still continue to learn, right? And that's the most inspiring thing about people in this space, that you have this opportunity to learn always. So don't give up on your appetite to learn. Don't think that I know few techniques and I'll be done for my career with that. No, it will never happen. Always continue to learn.
So true. So with that, I would want to thank everybody for participating in this webinar. We got some very good questions. Unfortunately, because of lack of time, we couldn't take them all. But I see that a lot of such questions have already been answered by the panelists themselves. The links for the Parivartaks, the form for joining Parivartaks has been already mentioned in the chat. The link to India AI website, where you can find more information on the latest AI developments in the Indian ecosystem, are also listed. And if you have any further questions, you can, we'll also post the video of this workshop on the platform, and we would love to interact with the rest of the audience beyond this workshop also. I would like to thank everyone for being, for all the panelists to be participating in this. Thank you for your valuable time. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
everyone.
nice weekend ahead.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.